Our next stop after Dreher Island State Park was Tallulah Gorge State Park in the North Georgia mountains. It's really a small campground, but it was very nice. Lots of trees, lots of shade, as you can see here, and it was very quiet. There are an extensive number of trails in the park, including this one that originates at the campground. We decided to get some steps in before dinner, and if you listen closely, you should be able to hear the river rushing through the gorge over 1,000 feet below this trail.
Is that getting us now?
Mm-hmm. Both of us.
It's hard to believe, but the hydroelectric dam you see here was actually built all the way back in 1913. Periodically throughout the year, the amount of water released from the dam is increased dramatically. This actually results in Class 4 and Class 5 rapids in the gorge that are enjoyed by more experienced kayakers. After our hike the first afternoon of our stay, we were hungry, but we didn't really have enough energy to cook, so we decided to visit Clarksville, about a 10-minute drive from the park, where we enjoyed dinner at the Attic restaurant.
Really?
It was kind of a funky little place decorated with antiques. The dining room was nice, white tablecloths, great service, and candidly the food was a little on the mediocre side. The next morning we got up and decided to hit the trails again. We had hoped to make our destination Inspiration Point, the highest point in the park. As we made our way towards Inspiration Point, we encountered the Interpretive Center. It's a museum filled with the history of the Tallulah Falls and Tallulah Gorge area. It was really fascinating to see some of the displays that depicted the town of Tallulah Falls back in the 1800s, and also discussed the railroad, the way of life, and the construction of the dam. At the lowest level of the museum is a display of the animals that inhabit this area. This rusty old tower along one of the trails once supported a 1,000-foot tightrope stretched across the gorge. In 1970, world-famous acrobat Carl Walenda actually walked across the gorge in front of 30,000 spectators. The next day we visited Black Rock Mountain State Park. This is north of Tallulah Gorge and very close to the North Carolina border. From this vantage point, you're able to see 4 states, Tennessee, North Carolina, South Carolina, and of course Georgia. The cashier at the visitor center told us that this was a great trail and that it was mostly flat. Unfortunately, that turned out to not be the case.
Oh, that's beautiful. I see it.
You see Tennessee?
Sure.
Nice and flat trail, they said. They forgot the straight uphill part.
I think they're walking.
After our failed attempt on that trail, we drove a little lower down the mountain and visited Black Rock Lake. This trail was about 0.8 miles and led into some beautiful scenery where mountain creeks flowed into the lake. After leaving Black Rock Mountain, we stopped in Clayton, Georgia. This is a beautiful little North Georgia mountain town with tons of things to do. We met a really neat couple at the campground named Julie and Larry. They had recommended that when we visited Clayton that we eat at an establishment called the Universal Joint.
Want to sit inside?
If I have it.
Thank you.
As you can tell, this is an old filling station, and I have to tell you, the atmosphere was great and the food was even better. On the last full day of our trip, we decided to drive to Helen, Georgia. It's a cute little mountain town that is built to resemble an alpine village. Every October, Helen hosts an Oktoberfest celebration. We had gone a couple of years ago and had made the mistake of going on a weekend when it was extremely crowded. This trip we went on a Wednesday and we found that the crowds were much less and the wait to get in a restaurant was very short. There are a lot of cool things to do in Helen. Here are some youngsters that are panning for gemstones. There's a lot of little funky shops too with gifts, t-shirts, souvenirs, etc. On our last trip to Helen, we ate at the Troll Tavern twice. We enjoyed it so much we decided to go back for a third visit on this trip. They have great food and a wonderful selection of beers. On the outskirts of town, we decided to stop and really enjoy the views of the Chattahoochee River. This river originates in a spring in the Blue Ridge Mountains and flows 430 miles all the way to the Gulf of Mexico. On the way out of town, we decided to go to Anna Ruby Falls. This park is operated by the U.S. Forest Service. At the end of a 0.8 mile hike is a double waterfall that's actually created from two different creeks coming together and cascading over a granite cliff. The trail is a little bit challenging as it's quite an incline. However, there are a number of places to stop along the way and rest. It's said that the falls were discovered by a former Confederate soldier and property owner in the area. He decided to name the falls after his only daughter, Anna Ruby. Tracy and I hope you enjoyed this video. Tomorrow morning we're headed to a Harvest Host stay at Black Pearl Farm in Prosperity, South Carolina, so stay tuned.